Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's your boy Eric Buckner. Buck is in the building. This is Get Off My Lawn Live, extended preview edition. I am here on a Sunday here in Detroit. It is snowing. It is cold. But the good news is we got football and good game so far, right about halftime. So hopefully I get a few extra people that probably wouldn't have watched because of that tune in because I got a few things I want to talk about. But let me get my business out the way first. As you guys know from last week's show, I won't be doing my normal Tuesday episode to Get Off My Lawn Live. I will, however, be doing my Wednesday Game Time Audible show with my partner Hugh Lee, where we talk sports and we'll have that discussion about everything going on in the world of sports, including my thoughts on Matthew Stafford and what's going on with that and some of the hirings in the NFL and NBA, so on and so forth. So look forward to that. Also, we have the usual shows in the NightHawk Network that we'll get into at the end. But right now, actually, I'm doing the extended version of today's preview show because there are certain things that have come to my attention, or not necessarily come to my attention. They've been on my radar for quite some time, actually. But there's just certain things that I feel like I need to address in regards to some of the things that I'm seeing on my personal social media pages and just in the media in general. So I want to touch on a few of those things. So if you would allow me to share my thoughts and some of the research that goes into some of those thoughts, please do that. Of course, I will take some comments since this will be an extended version of the show. And I do actually want to hear some of what you guys have to say about what I'm discussing in regards to some of these things that I'm talking about. So by all means, do that as well. Okay, that being said, let me get into it. One of the things I want to talk about right now is the fact that here in Michigan, they are about to go into a phase where we're taking down some of the restrictions on COVID. In other words, the governor has announced that February 1st, she's going to cut down further on some of the restrictions she had, and particularly the ones that involve the restaurant industry. Now, keep in mind, the restaurant industry is something I'm very familiar with. The majority of my working life has been spent in someone's restaurant, someone's fast food establishment, either as a worker, a manager, a cook, or a caterer. So I have a vast amount of time and experience in this particular industry. I also have several people that are part of my Facebook page that work in that industry as well. So I know they are hurting. I know it's very difficult to be a person who works in the restaurant industry, period, whether you're here in Michigan or anywhere else around the country right now, because of the fact that COVID is taken away from what normal business would be in regards to those places. So I do get it where some people's frustrations come into play in terms of why is this allowed to open, but why is this in turn not allowed to open? So keep in mind, some of the restrictions placed here is set up to where now these restaurants will be allowed to open February 1st. But in regards to what time and availability, they will have to close down by 10 p.m. and they will only be allowed 25% capacity. And of course, several people, particularly on my Facebook page, showed their frustration in regards to that, while others were basically just happy that they were open at all and couldn't wait to get out there and be a part of the restaurant life and get some good indoor dining and stuff going on. This discussion is for you guys. Keep in mind, like I said, I do sympathize with people who are working in these industries right now. Like I said, I am one of them. My main job before COVID involved working for a catering place. Shout out to you guys if you're paying attention and listening. I'm looking forward to getting back to that. We are set up to go back sometime in April or perhaps May, depending on how the rollout of vaccines and things of that nature come into play. But in the meanwhile, there are some of us who are not able to go back to work, and it's not even restaurant related. It comes from the fact that we still have to deal with our children and all that as well. So that being said, we definitely would want what we can get done in regards to people being safe and COVID and things of that nature. What am I getting at exactly? Well, here it is in a nutshell. People, Why so anxious? Why so anxious to get out to these places when you know the COVID situation is getting worse by the day? We know this because they're reporting it on the news. You should know this based on your own life experiences. I'm pretty sure at this point, almost a year into the first cases of COVID, somebody knows somebody that has contracted the virus or have died from the virus. So you know that these things are happening. Now, whether you think it's because people are planning these things within us to make COVID happen, or whether you think they are because it is man-made and we are ones who set us up to fail, whatever the case may be, bottom line is it exists. It does exist, and people is getting worse instead of getting better. And my question to some of you is, are you part of why? Or are you knowingly or not knowingly know that you may be part of why? I want you to think about that as I break this down. Keep in mind, I got a little chart. Well, I don't have a chart, but basically I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of where we at in this scenario. And I want you to think about this as you consider what you want to do in terms of your goings in and outs and whatnot. Because I see several of you, because you've received your stimulus package, because they're talking about giving a second one sometime relatively soon, because we know we're soon upon tax season, people getting their taxes done and are looking forward to that tax money so they can do other things. A lot of you are talking about where you want to travel in terms of where you want to go and get out and get away. Some of you are talking about how you want to spend time out and about because you've been trapped in all this for so long. Why so anxious? Consider this, people. Let me give you a breakdown. Check out the screen here as I break this down to you, okay? February 1st, here in the United States, we had 7 positive cases that we knew of and 0 people dead, okay? And when this first came up on the radar, of course, the person who I have called anything but his name because he still gets no respect from me, that would be our previous president, was quick to tell people that this is nothing more than the flu. It's a hoax. It's Democratic people wanting to distract you from what's really going on, so on and so forth. You can look up all the various press conferences that he had. You can look on, although his Twitter page is suspended and shut down, I'm pretty sure because the internet has a long memory and it's undefeated, that you can find some website where you can look up what he said on what day in terms of his Twitter account. Bottom line, he dismissed this as nothing more than just a flu type situation, and we would quickly get past it. It would go away mysteriously, all that good stuff. You remember that. Okay, that was during these times, okay? Now let's go 2 weeks later. We just had double the cases. Still, no big deal at this point, right? He's still shrugging it off. They're starting to have the press conferences. I don't worry about it, so on and so forth. Although we do know at that point, he had talked to Bob Woodward for the book and showed his concern that this was a lot more contagious than people actually knew. And of course, later on was to say that he didn't want to have people worried about it. And that's why he didn't tell the real at that time. Anyway, let's move on. 2 weeks later, we end up with 24 positive cases, and here's our first death that shows up, okay? That's February 28th. That's about almost a year ago, okay? Now, let's move forward. Let's skip about a month, okay? So here, hold on. Here in April, we went from, okay, let me show you this again. 24 positive cases and 1 person dying to 212,747 positive cases and over 4,700 people dying. That's just here in the U.S., okay? That's just in between the time between February 28th and April the 1st. That part. Remember, during that part, most of the states at that point had not added any measures to shut things down. Some people had just started shutting things down. Here in Michigan, we had begun that process, and this is where the numbers were at that point. A lot of these cases, mind you, were in the metropolitan areas of New York and New Jersey, perhaps a little Chicago, some of Detroit. So it basically was still pretty much centralized at that point, okay? A lot of places on the outlying areas of the country really hadn't experienced a lot of COVID type situations just as of yet. 2 months later, that's where we are. June 1st. Again, April 1st, June 1st. 2 months after that, we went from 4,784 people to damn near almost 100,000 people in just 2 months. That's about 45,000 people a month for those 2 months. And remember, at that point, it's warm outside. Everybody was social distance to some degree because they did all the various lockdowns and whatnot. This was the point actually where they started opening things back up, because at that point, we got to get the economy started back. We got to do this. We got to do that. Cash considerations came into play. This was when a lot of you guys on my Facebook page was out and about, because at that point, remember, we had got the stimulus package, the $1,200. People still had their tax money. People hadn't really got a chance to spend a lot of that because when all the shortages came, a lot of the stuff that you guys wanted to go buy was not available. So if we couldn't get it on Amazon, we basically saved that money. And of course, at that time, travel was cheaper because they were trying to get people to still take planes and whatnot, because that had pretty much shut down. So you guys decided to go to the various places, you know, the typical places that a lot of you guys go to when it's warm. That's not here. Texas, Florida, California, Atlanta, all those types of places, okay? Hi, cousins. Hopefully you guys are listening. So when that happens, here's what we're looking at. And let me skip to this right here. Okay? Here, people, we have basically the top 10 states at that time for the virus and deaths and what have you. Note where Michigan is, okay? Right here around 6th or 7th. Like I said, most of the major people that died were in this area here. New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Illinois, California, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Florida. Think about it. Most of your major cities are in these states right here, okay? See where Texas is. See where Georgia is. All still in the top 10, though the deaths were kind of low and the cases were kind of low in these places. But remember, this is right around June or so. So keep that in mind, all right? Let's move on. Now, remember another thing about June 1st. This was right around the time that was telling us how all the holidays were causing spikes in the virus. So that every time we had a major holiday, usually soon after that, there would be spikes in the number of people that were getting sick and dying. Okay? Let's move on 3 months ahead of that. September 1st. This was after 4th of July and Juneteenth and Memorial Day and all of that. Okay? You see where we are now? Again, this is 3 months later. Okay, so June 1st, September 1st. Pretty much triple the numbers, double the number of deaths, okay? Almost 200,000 at that point, almost 6 million people with it. Now, I point this out because this is right around the time school started back for a lot of people around in this area. So remember, a lot of the kids had not been even getting tested because they had not been in school for most of that time. So what was the need? Unless, of course, you had a household where people were getting sick. And let me point that out. More times than not, when one person in the house got COVID, more times than not, the vast majority of the times, I would say almost 80+%, somebody else in that household was probably going to have positivity for COVID soon after. In fact, there are several households who basically from the mom on down to the kid ended up getting COVID at some point. Now, some of those households, they made out all right. They got the COVID for a couple of days and it was fine. But some of those other households, y'all know the story. Mama go to the hospital, then daddy went to the hospital, then son went to the hospital, and then mom died. Next day, dad died. A week later, kid died. These things happen. Again, they public record. Look it up for yourself. Okay, I got a few comments. Let me get to these, all right? Hey, cousin, how are you? Much love. I'm all right, cousin. Just working out some things. Hey, cousin, since you listen, I'm glad you're listening. Hopefully, a few other people is listening. Like I said, if you have comments in regards to that, Whether you want to have them now or if you watch this later on and have comments, please post them. You can send them in my messenger. This will also be viewed on YouTube Live. You can check that out and post your comments there. For my family members, of which I'm hoping some of you guys are watching, if you want to discuss what I have to say personally, y'all got the number. If not, I'm not a hard person for you guys to find. Okay, back to the thing, okay? Again, this was right around the time school started, and, the kids weren't even out yet. Most of them have been pretty much, keeping pet and not being around a lot of folks, what have you. So then school starts, okay? Then we get to around my birthday, all right? Birthday, November 2nd. Here we are. We got 9 million cases now and 218,779 deaths, okay? At this point, remember, all the epidemiologists, all the people that's actually paid to do these things, to have this knowledge, to know these things, they're all telling us the same things. The holidays is causing super spread. People traveling is causing super spread. People having large indoor gatherings is causing super spread. And again, I'm talking to some of you in particular because you were bold enough to not only have these gatherings still, despite all the public warnings, and in cases where it was no longer lawful to do so, you chose to post them on your social media pages so we all could see what a great time you were having and how you was partying hardy and whatnot. And in a couple of you people's cases, if you tune in, I know what happened at one party in particular. Y'all got the COVID. You tried to keep it on the low, but we found out. And see, it's sad that it's to a point now to where in some cases when people end up getting COVID, because people see how they were moving during that time, they don't want to make it public knowledge because they are ashamed to let people know that that's what happened, that they end up getting COVID, because they don't want to hear that it was your fault because you was doing what you was doing. Or they don't want to hear that, okay, well, see, if you knew better, you would have did better. And all that good stuff. And I get that. But also, you also keep in mind, some of you guys, y'all not trying to get tested. Not at all. You know why? I know why. Because part of y'all scared to find out the results. You don't want to know that. Oh, wow, I got it. Because you're scared that now that you actually got it, it's going to be a little different than when you were saying, if I get it, I get it. If I die, I die. But now you got it, chest kind of tight and whatnot. Now you feel a little different about it. Or worst case scenario is part that really people don't understand is that oftentimes most people that's getting it, about 60%, they asymptomatic, which means you are having no symptoms of the virus whatsoever. You don't feel nothing. But meanwhile, because you are a carrier of the virus, the possibility you're also a spreader of said virus to other people around you. People like myself who have compromised situations because I'm a bigger person, because I'm pre-diabetic, because I've had high blood pressure at some point, things of that nature. It's not healthy for me to be in an environment where I could possibly get it. Although, as I've said before, I think there was a time when I thought I got it. I have been tested since then. No signs of that. Not tested for antibodies, though. That's another story. Anyway, so there's that. But in the end, some of y'all not getting tested because y'all don't want to know the results because either you're ashamed of what the results will reveal or because you feel like in the end, when people find out you had it, they will blame you for getting it because of the things you were doing. Let's move on to December, okay? December 1st. Again, here's my birthday, 9 million. A month later, we got 4 million more cases. We got another 30-some thousand people dead. Remember, they have been telling us all that time, winter's going to be so much worse because a lot of people are going to be indoors and they're not going to be outside like that. And in those closed spaces, the virus is more likely to spread. Not to mention because it's a respiratory virus, that's the nature of most respiratory viruses. When they hit colder climates, they tend to spread even more so. And then also, this is when they started reporting the various different strains of the COVID virus that we're learning about now, like the UK strain and the South African strain and some of the new strains they found here in Ohio and in California. So now they're saying up to maybe 10 or 11 different strains of the virus, and most of these new strains are more contagious and possibly more deadlier than the ones that we are previously dealing with. And of course, that should not surprise people that really know about viruses, because there are mutated versions of the virus. Again, remember, if you guys that watch my show on a regular basis, I talked about how the last time I got the flu shot, I still ended up getting the flu. And the doctor explained to me it's because I had a different variation of the flu, a different mutation of that flu. That's why that vaccine that I was given for the flu shot did not necessarily apply to that. Remember that for a second, okay? We'll go back there. A few more comments. What we got? Who is okay? Yeah, people are out here reckless. Exactly, Will. What up, Big Easy? What's going on, V? Just trying to break it down for the folks for a minute while we're here at halftime. I know y'all want to get back to the game, so I'm going to try to keep it moving. All right, here we go. Here's where we are as of yesterday. 23 million cases, 395,332 people dead. Okay, keep in mind, here's January 1st. Here's January 23rd. Do a little quick math, okay? So that's 4 million cases positive just this month alone. That's damn near 65,000 people dead just this month alone. This week alone, we've had over 20,000 people die from coronavirus, reportedly. Because again, those numbers are actually higher depending on where you're going and who's taking charge of the records and when they actually report it. Those are more people dead and more people positive than what is being reported. And that's just here. Remember, United States makes up 4% of the total population of the planet of the Earth. But yet, over 20% of all cases of coronavirus positivity is found here. Over 25% of all people who have died is found here in the United States, okay? And in the end, remember, it represents a small number. Over maybe 1.5 million people have died from the coronavirus across the world at this point. And there's 8 billion people on the planet. So that breaks down to about 1% of all the population of the Earth since the virus first started has died from the virus. That's a very small percentage. But again, let's just say crazily everybody on Earth ends up getting it some way, shape, or form. And just 1% of everybody who got it ends up dying from the virus. That's still millions and millions of people. That cannot be taken lightly, folks. So here we are. We have people now who, much like myself, are taking it seriously and starting to do what we can to social distance and whatnot. For some of us, it's working out well. For other people, they've done all that and they still end up getting the virus. Why is that, you wonder? Well, let's look at the environment in which a lot of these people may find themselves in, where they're doing everything the right way to keep themselves safe, but the people around them, not so much. So that gets back to this part of the conversation, folks. How many of you are out here and you're still not wearing your mask, or you wear it every now and then? How many of you out here and they say you should social distance in indoor environments, but you're not? How many of you are still going to these restaurants? Because even now, let's not be stupid, people. Again, I've worked in several of these places, so I know. Some of these places, they doing indoor dining right now, even though they're not supposed to. They serving drinks indoor, even though they're not supposed to. And, you know, depending on who they are and what they are and, you know, how good a regular you may be and whatnot, they figure they'll go ahead and let you do it because you're not going to tell. And some of these places have been fined for that. Again, all things are public record that you can look at. But then, of course, you're saying, well, it's not fair that we have to do this here, but in other places they don't. I'm glad you brought that up, particularly if one of them are some of my cousins that I'm talking about. Yep, I'm talking to y'all. Let me get into that for a second, shall we? Okay, here, people. Let's go here. This was April 1st's numbers, okay? Give me a second. Let me work on this here. This was April 1st's numbers, okay? In terms of the major places in the country that had the cases and the major people who had died. Okay, no, actually, this is June's numbers. Notice the deaths. Notice the main states that's here. Again, most of the major cities come out of these states here: Florida, Michigan, Texas, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, California, Illinois. Like so, all your major cities. Your Detroit, Chicago, New York, Boston, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, so on and so forth. That's all in here. Now, when you couldn't do things here because most of these places had started locking stuff down, what did you do? You went to some of these other places a little further down the list. How many of y'all went to Myrtle Beach? How many of y'all went to Virginia for that? How many of y'all went down to New Orleans to Louisiana? How many of y'all went down to Ohio because they weren't as restricted as us? Or Indiana because it was close by? So on and so forth. Now let's direct you to this here, okay? Here's where we are. Here's where we are now, okay? Notice, again, the top 10. See how it's numbered? Now, family, let me point out something to you. See where Michigan is on this list? Right here at 14 now. Primarily because, no fault of some of you guys, our governor chose to deal with things a little differently and do some restrictions that has caused our numbers to go down significantly compared to some of our counterparts. See where Wisconsin is? Wisconsin wasn't even on that other list I showed you. That was in the 20s at that time. See where Indiana is ahead of us? Yeah, let's go to Ohio. Toledo, they ain't got all that going on. Look where Ohio is now. At number 7, okay? Notice that. See where they had 10,000 something deaths? Most of that happened in the last 4 to 5 months in Ohio. Now, granted, we've doubled the amount between now and 4 months ago here in Michigan, but they've damn near tripled theirs. See where Illinois is? All y'all that like to run down to Chicago. See where Florida is? All y'all that was running down to Florida. All y'all still talking about going down to Florida as soon as y'all get your extra money. See where Texas is. See where California is. Notice how big their numbers are compared to some of ours. Michigan, almost 600,000. California, 5 times that. Now, granted, California, biggest state in the union in terms of population. So that only makes sense. But again, there are certain people that live in California. Hi, cousins. That are going to tell you, yeah, well, things are different here in certain parts of California and what have you. And that's why I still can move the way I move. That's why we still going to have parties and whatnot. We being safe. Sure you are. Perhaps you are. I may be wrong. But again, you guys put your life on display on social media like that. So we have an idea of some of the things that you're doing. You're posting the pictures and some of y'all all in each other's face, still doing the same poses y'all was doing pre-COVID, all grind up on each other and hugged up and whatnot. Social distancing be damn, mask be damn. I trust my people. I trust what they doing. I ain't worried about it. But see, in the end, yeah, you may trust them, but who are they around when they not in your face? And in the end, they may be being safe where they are, but who is in their household that may not be? So yeah, and I know some of y'all want to throw that argument, well, the older people is the main ones dying from the virus. That's true. 7 out of 10 people that have died from coronavirus is somewhere in that 55 and older range. But we've had younger people die from the virus. You know that. 2.5 million of that number that I showed you, of the 25 million plus that currently have the virus, those are people under the age of 18 people. Now, yes, the vast majority of them, they probably didn't have no symptoms whatsoever and probably still would do that. Like I said, it's an extremely small percentage of the people that's dying that are under 18. That's just the facts. That's why they're saying that school, once we make them more safer for the older people that go to school, probably won't be so bad for some of the kids, except for that one fact that they may be the super spreaders. But in the end, it's not the kids that's making it to where they're the super spreaders. Because like I said, they spent most of their time in the house. It's not the older people that's making it to where most of the super spread going on. Because most older people, they're not going out and about like that. You know that. So how is this virus continuing to spread so crazily, particularly in certain areas? When they testing these people, what's the average age of the people that they are testing positive? Somewhere around 35. So consider that. Hi, cousins. I don't need to tell you how old y'all is. Y'all know how y'all are. I don't need to tell y'all what y'all been doing. You know what you've been doing. So when people have their concerns for you and voice them on social media, for you to understand that we are concerned about what you're doing and what you may be doing to contribute the spread of the virus, please understand it for that. I'm not picking on y'all per se, but in the same token, I feel some of the things you guys are doing are not safe practices. I feel like you're being selfish. And one thing we're learning about coronavirus and how people are moving in terms of dealing with it, people who are selfish tend to be put in a more compromised position because of how they're dealing with things, as opposed to the other people who understand that you can not only be a person that gets the virus, but you might also be a person that is giving out the virus. Let me make one more distinction. Okay, let's put it this way. You know how this time of year people get colds, right? You remember back when you was little, you'd be sitting there and then what your parents usually tell you? Cover your mouth. Don't be coughing like that all out in the air. Why did they tell you that, people? Because when you was coughing, all type of stuff was coming out your mouth, right? The cold, the phlegm, the extra fluids and what have you. The only difference between this and that is the fact that people that have coronavirus, they don't necessarily have things where they sneeze and they carrying on. So you could actually see stuff coming out of their mouth. But in the same token, they could be sitting there just breathing and spreading it all through the room. And remember, like I said, some of these restaurants that we're talking about, they have excellent ventilation systems. But I worked in several myself, and some of them, not so much. Think about your home, how good the ventilation system may be here. You might have them weather side windows and what have you, and that good central air and whatnot. But for those of you who do not, something to think about. That's that part. And then there's the other half of this discussion, okay? Allow me to take a quick little break, and then I'm going to get to that and finish this thing on up with y'all, okay? This is Get Off My Lawn, extra edition. I see some of your comments. I'm going to address them too when I get back. Give me a second, y'all. We take a quick little break, and we shall return. What up, y'all? We back. Get Off My Lawn Live, extended edition. I'm Eric Buckner. I'm basically trying to break down some stuff and trying to gain some understanding as to why certain people are doing what they're doing in the process. We can figure that out. Okay, TC is saying, I just read somewhere that the virus is down 10%. Overall, in certain places, that is correct. I don't do nothing but working home. And keep in mind, we are in the minority in that right now. The majority of people are still trying to live some semblance of a normal life despite the virus. And I'm not completely upset with that. My whole thing is all this information that's been put out here for you guys to understand that we have to deal with things a little differently for right now. And again, we talk about the solution. The solution at this point, from what many people are trying to tell you, is the vaccine. Because if you take said vaccine, you become more immune to the virus. That way we can start opening up segments of the population and get back to some sense of normalcy. Depending on who you talk to, they say anywhere from early June to maybe early September or October. But then there's this part. Things happen like what happened with the situation known as Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron got arrested so past a couple days ago. He was 86 years old. Now, Granted, some of y'all don't know who Hank Aaron is, and you all should. That's something I'll talk about on my Wednesday show. But in essence, he was a baseball player of note, and he died. Now, the problem is that soon after he died, the reports came out that, yes, Hank Aaron took the vaccine a couple weeks prior to his death. And people started putting 2 + 2 together and started having that assumption that, okay, perhaps he died because of the vaccine. Perhaps it was the vaccine that killed him. They're saying that. Now, here's the thing, people. Do understand that these vaccines, regardless of whether it's the COVID-19 vaccine, SARS vaccine, so on and so forth, some of them have extreme consequences for certain people. In other words, you have to consider if you put anything that is of a foreign substance in your body, particularly something that's going to alter the DNA or blood cells of said body, there's a possibility that it may have a very negative effect on you that may actually cause you to no longer be here. That is in the realm of possibility for a very small percent of people. So no, I cannot sit here and tell you 100%, because again, not a medical expert, epidemiologist, or anything of the type, that is not what killed Hank Aaron. But what I will tell you is that is more likely not the case. Remember, Hank Aaron was 86 years of age. There's a very small percentage of the population that makes it to said 86, first of all. Second of all, it is wintertime. It could be a variety of other things that may have caused the ailments that led to him passing. Beyond the vaccine. Remember, he was not fully vaccinated. He received the first shot, not the second. So perhaps during that time, he may have got the virus despite that. Because in the end, remember, these vaccines are not 100% safeguard against you becoming sick from COVID-19. 90 to 95% efficiency. Remember that? That means it's a 5% chance that you might get it. And it's not to say that you may not get it even with that 90. It's just saying that if you do get it, your body should have the knowledge and antibodies necessary to fight the virus so that you don't end up getting too sick. But also keep in mind, as we consider whether or not we'll take these vaccines, none of these vaccines are telling you that once you get them, you also become immune to spreading the virus. Nobody is saying that. There's no reports of that at all. And then, of course, there's some of you, well, I already had COVID, and I'm all right, cuz, or I'm all right, fam, or I'm all right, friend. I'm okay. But again, there are very few reports of it at the moment, but there are studies being done about it. Who's to say you can't get it more than once? Has anybody established that you cannot get it more than once? Has any of the major people who study these things said that we couldn't get it more? I don't recall seeing any of that. If you have that information, by all means, send me so I can see it and review it myself. And if I find it to be credible, I absolutely will put it out there next time I go on the air. But beyond that, I've yet to see that myself. So just like how people get the flu or get a cold and get it more than once, I most definitely feel, based on my opinion, again, this is the opinion of me, Eric Buckner, and not those of the NightHawk Network or any of my affiliates, that it's possible that you could get it again. And for all we know, some of these other new strains may make it to where that is possible. Because, yeah, you've had it before, but not this particular strain, because it's messing on part of your nervous system or whatever that the first time you got it had nothing to do with. Did you consider that? So again, remember, the vast majority of people that contract it right now are asymptomatic. So they don't even know they got it. Unless, of course, they just happen to go get tested and they find out. So meanwhile, while you've had it, think about who you've been around and what situations you put them in, particularly your elderly peoples, your cousins, your older cousins, your older aunts and uncles and grandmothers and grandfathers. Consider that. So in the end, I don't want you to end up with some of the stories I've heard in the past year. There are people on my timeline who, if they tune in, I could tell you, yep, my mother died. She never go nowhere. She never do nothing. But she died of coronavirus. There's one person, if they tuning in, they will tell you they are sitting here this day full of guilt because they feel like they were the person that gave their mother the coronavirus, and that's why she died. And it was all their fault. And in the end, I hate that they feel like that. I do, but who's to say? We don't fully understand the spread of this virus to the extent that we need to. So until we do, I just think you should err on the side of caution and keep your travels minimal and do your best to control the spread by not being in each other's face and wear your mask and all that. That's just my personal opinion. We can agree to disagree. And if you have good reasons why you feel like you still have to do these things, and I'm not talking about having to go to work and stuff, that's something entirely different, folks. I'm talking about for those of you who feel like y'all got to go and hang out. Y'all got to go to these restaurants and eat and laugh. And you got to understand why she's still not trying to open the nightclubs here in Michigan. Think about what a nightclub consists of, folks. People dancing and partying, sweat flying here and there, people drinking constantly. Ain't nobody trying to go to no nightclub and just sit there and listen to music. Like, no, they dancing. And you know how these dances go in 2021. A lot of grinding and so forth. There ain't no social distancing in that. So yeah, consider all these things. Don't just consider your own little bubble, okay? Consider the vast world around you, the people around you. When you make these decisions in regards to what you want to do and where you're going and what have you. It ain't just about you, boo. It ain't just about you, fam. It's about all of us. And until we know what we need to know, or until we get to a point where the people that are studying these things deem it safe, perhaps at that point, then you should understand, okay, maybe now I'll go out and whatnot. Because I'm looking forward to them times. Like I said, I have many things that I'm doing. If you're looking at my broadcast on a regular basis, you know that. So I'm keeping busy. It's possible to find stuff to do in the house and not be bored, and in the house bored, or however that stupid song go. It's in the realm of possibilities. A lot of y'all not by yourself like I am the vast majority of the time. You got other family members there. Why y'all can't spend some time with each other without going out and about? The 3 or 4 of y'all. My brother does that with his family. They having a great time during COVID. Just the 3 of them. It's possible. Consider why we are at this point in life. Actually, just put in some thought to your decision process before you just decide, well, I got to do what I got to do. I got to get some air. I just got to go. I got money. I got to spend it. I'm just saying, consider some better decisions. It's not my place to tell you exactly what to do. It's your own freedom choice who you listen to, between good for bad, bad for fun. Y'all remember that song from back in the day? That part. So yeah, I just want you to have those thought processes. And again, if you disagree or you've had something to say about it, you catch this later on and want to comment, the comments are there by all means. If you family members in particular, and y'all know who I'm talking to, y'all want to hit me up about it, I'm here. I ain't running. We can talk about it. If you just want to cuss me out about what I said, again, I ain't a hard person for some of y'all to find. Let's have that discussion. Because I'd rather us have it out. In the end, you think about it and then do something that causes you not to do some of the things you do and you be safe, for us to still have that discussion 5-10 years from now, as opposed to you just doing whatever the hell you want and in the end finding out the wrong way, like I've seen so many people over the last several months have. And then we at your funeral like, I told him. I don't want that. I don't want nobody else that I know or love or care about, or anybody who loves and cares about them that I know, have somebody pass from something that they could have avoided if they chose to. That's all I'm saying. And one last thing before I go, y'all. As you know by now, the person who won the Mega Millions was a person here in Michigan, in the city of Novi. And because of how Michigan is set up in terms of the lottery, in terms of people having a public knowledge of who won, that person has to eventually reveal themselves at some point so that you know that they are the person that won or persons that won. And some of my private conversations with some of the people in the chat, they feel like that's not right and unfair because they feel like that person should win. They should be able to not tell nobody and be anonymous. And I get that. But in the same token, I'm sitting here thinking that's just sad that you took some of your hard-earned dollars, was blessed enough to get past the hundreds of millions odds that it would take for you to get those 6 numbers, win that, and win enough money to not only change your life, but the lives of the generations behind you for years to come. And now you have to be concerned about who knows, because in the end, there are people out there that will be looking to do you harm if they knew you won that money. Be trying to plot and plan on you to get as much of that money, if not all that money, out of your possession as quickly as they can for their own selfish purposes. That you get to a point where now, because you done won $500-700 million, that the family members that normally wouldn't pay you no mind whatsoever will go out their way to catch up with you and try to find out where you are and see how much of that money they can get for themselves. And if they don't get enough, get to plotting and planning with other people that don't even care or know you, just so they can get a cut of that money. The greed of it all. Like I said on the previous show, y'all don't really want to win the lottery, some of y'all, because y'all couldn't deal with the pressure thereof. Are you willing to be like, okay, well, I know how my family is. Time to disappear on their ass. They'll never see me again because I know I can't trust them with knowing that I won, because they won't never act right after that. I'm just saying. It's sad that we can't just win the lottery. And if we chose to stay where we were, or if we chose to have the same job or be our same friends, that we could do that comfortably without having to worry about what people said or did or people plotting on us and whatnot. So, you know, even though I've complained about how most of these lotteries are won by somebody in Okie Hokey Pokey, in some crazy part of these states, and this is not the case apparently here, I do understand why in the end, if most of the lotteries were won in urban places, it probably caused more problems than it would solve. And I just think that's sad. But nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and let y'all get on back to what you was doing. Thanks for listening. This has been Get Off My Lawn Extended Edition. Again, we got Wednesday. I got my show Game Time Audible that we'll be doing with my guy Hugh Lee. And of course, we got my other people in the NightHawk Network. Let me run through them real quickly like. We got my cousin, Dr. Facey, and her show on Thursday nights, Monument of Moment. We got Hey Bitches tomorrow, 9 p.m. Going to be an excellent guest that Helena's having. You might want to check that out. We have Dish and Tea tonight. And then tonight is I Said What I Said Sundays. I might make an appearance on that and have some discussion with those guys. We got a Stan Mason show Behind the Blue Curtain. For those of you who are looking for that this week, basically there was an issue, so he ended up posting it later. I will post it for you guys tomorrow to look at. Let's talk about Nikki, her interview series, Girl Stop podcast, which will probably have another episode sometime tomorrow. We'll post that then. And Pastor Shine Love Presents, which I will probably post on Tuesday. And then also there's the Get Off My Lawn Live After Dark edition. That will probably be coming back in another couple weeks. And one last thing before I go, I am doing my audio podcast again. It is now known as Get Off My Lawn Live Reflections. Okay. Hold on, y'all. I got a picture of that if I could find it. Okay, maybe I don't. Oh, here you go. Yeah, that is that. And you can find that on Google Podcasts or Spotify, Anchor, and several other podcasts where audio podcasts are found. So please check that out. I'll be posting that on the page sometime tomorrow. And then also, if you want to catch previous episodes of my podcast or here on Get Off My Lawn Live, you can go to my my YouTube page. It's Eric Buckner, NightHawk Network, Detroit. And once you go there, folks, if you so will kindly do, you will find a video much like this one here. And if you would, could you go ahead and like and subscribe it? I would very much appreciate it. See that there? You're going to hit that subscribe button, and then that number will come on up, and I can get some more likes and subscribers, which will be very helpful in my future endeavors. So please do that for me if you could. Let me take these last couple comments before I head on out the door. So I got a lot going on here, so let me clear some of this out for y'all. I can see my old janky mug again. All right, back to these comments right quick. You are so right. Preach. Thank you, Pride. You are so correct. Thank you, Miss Pat. What up, though, Brother Gino? He must be checking in. Good to see you, Gino. Just keep quiet and move in silence. Talking about that lottery thing. They will set you up and have you killed. It's sad, Miss Pat, but yeah, I know it. I've heard people have that discussion. Here in Detroit, they have Mott's attack that old dude that was catching the bus, and he got that money in a car from donations. Yep, I recall that. Continue to be blessed and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, T. Thanks for checking in. The have and have-nots, exactly. So, yep, that being said, y'all, just be careful out there, please. Consider not only yourself, but the people around you when you make these decisions. In the end, there'll be a time where we can go out and have fun and think about it. You done saved up all your money. By the time everything is back in the open and clear to where everything's open and you can fully enjoy wherever you're going, think about how much more fun you'll have because of all the extra money you had to do it with. Think about that. But anyway, like I said, I'm about to get out of here, y'all. Thanks for checking it out. I'm about to go and check out the rest of this game and make me a nice little salad and all that good stuff. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. I will see you guys Wednesday, if not tonight, mind you, but definitely Wednesday, 8:30 for Game Time Audible with me and my guy Hugh Lee. Until then, I am outie. Have a great weekend. Please stay safe. I love y'all. I am about to be out in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.